What's up, everyone? This is episode number 41 of the Wax Museum podcast, where I talk about all things basketball cards from past to present to future. And this is your host, Kyle. And just a quick reminder, as always, you guys can find me throughout the week on my social media. My Instagram is at Wax Museum Podcast. My Twitter is at Wax Museum PC. If you're following on there already, you've seen a couple of previews for today's episode. I've got a lot to talk about today. I'm really excited about this one, so let's jump right in. Last week, I talked a little bit about the Prizm First Off the Line Dutch auction. I wasn't a big fan of it. I thought the whole thing was kind of a big stink. I commented that I thought the product itself was also subpar. I didn't like all the shimmer cards. I definitely didn't like the unnumbered blue shimmers. I personally feel like a lot of the value of Prizm comes from the base and the base rookies. A lot of the autographs on this checklist looked rough to me, and then the fact that there were only 10 cards in these boxes, it all just seemed like a really bad gamble to me. But as the week progressed, I noticed, there were still a lot of people talking about these, and I saw one of my friends was buying these boxes for $500 a piece, and he wasn't subtle about it. So I messaged him and I said, hey, what's going on? I've already talked about my thoughts on these boxes, so, why are you so big on these boxes? And knowing that I had talked poorly about the product the week before, I wanted to try and at least present the other side as best as possible, even though I'm still not a fan of it. So I asked him to come up with a real quick summary of why he thought these boxes were a good buy at $500 a piece, and he gave me 4 really good reasons. So I'm going to read those for you today. Number 1, he said the history of sealed Prizm, especially first off the line, shows that these boxes in the past have stood the test of time, and then these current boxes will stand the test of time as well. Number 2, he called it the most loaded Prizm box ever by a wide margin because of those 6 guaranteed short print Prizms, and that's more than you would get out of a case of hobby, and that's just in one box, so that was a pretty big deal as well. Number 3, it's no surprise, Zion's the headliner. As you guys know, he's one of the most hyped and electrifying players that the hobby has seen since LeBron. When you add in the knee injury and then Luka's historic sophomore campaign, my friend actually feels like Zion's being slept on. And then he also likes Ja Morant, so he thinks that there's a couple of rookies that can really push this thing forward. And then finally, number 4, he said that the 10-card format is a breaker's dream, and more ripped product means less supply for those who plan to hold. So anyway, those are his 4 reasons. They're definitely worth considering. Him and I both felt like the new format, the whole Dutch auction, even though that's not what it actually was, we felt like that confused people. Panini probably dropped the ball there. But the longer this thing ran, there was less fear of missing out. People knew exactly how many boxes were left. And as things were winding down and the prices continued to drop, he pointed out that interest then actually picked up a little bit. And as soon as they hit eBay, they were $450 a piece. So who knows? I don't have any boxes of this. I don't do a lot of I don't buy wax to sit on it. I don't have that kind of self-control. I have nothing against people that do that. I don't play the first off the line game. Maybe some of you guys jumped in and did really well, or maybe some of you are just now getting your boxes now. Either way, I wish the best for you, and I wish the best for my friend, and I'm interested to see where things go from here. Okay, enough about Prizm. I've got a very eye-opening interview today with the collector that altered the 16 of 99 Steph Curry National Treasures RPA that I've talked about on here a lot. If you just started following the show, I'd recommend going back and listening to episodes 20 and 27. Real quick, though, I just want to give a short list of the key events that got us to this point. So, over the course of the summer, I built a Steph Curry RPA tracker. In late August, a Curry RPA showed up on eBay with a patch I had never seen before. It was in a BGS holder. The seller had quite the elaborate story. He had the box he supposedly pulled it from and all the other cards that came in the box. However, there were some major red flags with the listing. There was a glare on the serial number, and then the seller didn't list the number himself. So because of that, I started comparing it to autographs from other cards, It looked like a cleaned up version of 16 of 99. It was in fact the same one, so I went to blow out on social media. I called the seller out on it within maybe an hour of it being listed. I didn't want anyone to get stuck with a card that had unknowingly been altered. And the seller was alerted of this and proceeded to list it a second time with altered in the title. And he declared that he was trying to show how easy it was to trick Beckett. So I figured out who the seller was then. I contacted Beckett. Kudos to you guys. Quite a few of you reached out to them as well. It turned out Beckett had slabbed the card twice. That is before and after the alterations. Really all they had to do was Google the serial number and they would have known. As Jeremy Murray at Beckett confirmed, this played a major role in the company finally deciding to track serial numbers. Jeremy wouldn't, however, tell me what happened to the RPA, and he told me I needed to reach out to the owner instead. So I did. And with his permission, I recorded it. Without further ado, I present to you my chat with the owner of the altered Steph Curry RPA. I hope you enjoy. Okay, so I'm here today with Blaine. First off, I want to say thank you for coming on. And without going into too much personal information, I kind of want to get to know a little bit about you first and have a chance for people to get to know about you and maybe even your NBA fandom. So just first off, how did you become an NBA fan?
Well, I think always was a fan. The games were always on in my home. Growing up, I lived in Utah, and Utah Jazz were always on. And, that rivalry between the Bulls and the Jazz, that 2-year rivalry was kind of fun to watch. And when I was a kid growing up, I it was like any other kid. I had basketball cards and, collected Michael Jordan and at the time Stockton and Malone. And that's kind of the beginning of the NBA for me. It was just always, something to watch and cheer for your team.
Okay, and you mentioned collecting cards as a kid. It's like everyone that I've talked to kind of has a similar story to where, life got in the way and, people started, focusing on cars or girls or school or whatever. Was there a time where you kind of stopped collecting for a while?
Yeah, I think I stopped, in my teens and didn't start again until I had a little more money and a little more time. And I think it was about 8 years ago I tried to pick up some valuable Michael Jordans, some signed, like the Star 101 card and, a few of those others that they're kind of hard to get your hands on. So that started about 8 years ago, and then my sister introduced me to the Warriors, and we went to a game in 2014, and that's when I first saw Steph play, and I became a fan of his, and just kind of watched him for a while, and then later, I think it was probably a little over a year and a half ago, I bought my first Steph Curry rookie card, and then when it came in the mail, and I fell in love with those cards, and it kind of bit me again, if you will.
Right. Okay. So I think a lot of people can relate to that. So, and everyone knows the card that we're eventually getting to here. So I don't want this to sound as much like an interrogation. I want it to just kind of chat through it together. So let's kind of run through the time frame. We've got now your NBA fandom, and we can see that you're really gravitating towards Curry kind of when Curry Mania really started to take off, right before it sounds like before their first title run. And so let's go through this time frame together. I'll stop and ask for clarification on things along the way. If there's anything you want to add here at the start as a disclaimer, feel free to do so. Otherwise, we can jump right into that RPA.
Yeah, no problem. Go ahead.
Okay. So I'm assuming you really like Curry. Like you said, you kind of got bit by the bug. You decide that you want his National Treasures RPA, right? So tell me a little bit, how do you go about acquiring that? What's the process? Because it doesn't seem like it would be easy necessarily.
Well, I acquired my first one, I think about 6 months before I acquired the 16 of 99. And so I just kind of wanted to have all of his quality rookie cards. And then as I was getting more into the cards, I noticed that even some of the cards that I acquired seemed to be, altered and seemed to be modified. And I even bought a card that wasn't graded, and I could tell that the patch wasn't a real game-worn patch. And so then I kind of realized people are modifying these cards, and so I took a couple of cards that were of low value and a jersey that I had, and I changed some patches and sent them in to Beckett, and they came back graded and authenticated, and so then when I saw the 16 of 99, I'm a perfectionist. I work with my hands every day, and I knew that I could make that card look better, and I knew I could clean up the signature. And I did it for the intent to keep the card for my collection, but I did want it to be encased and graded. It being an improved patch, I did have the desire to have that in my collection that way. I had bought 2 boxes of the 09, trying to get the Curry rookie, right, to try to pull that miracle card. I bought those on eBay and spent about $5,000 a piece. Of course, I didn't get them, but that left me with the boxes, and so I think the reason I had listed it the way I did was to try to make it sound like I pulled the miracle card. And the reason that the motive there for me, a lot of people thought I was wanting to make more money, and I can spend little time at work and make more money there than I can on cards. But for whatever reason, my ego was such that I wanted people to ooh and ah about it, and I wanted attention. I got more than I wanted because of you and your work. Right. When I found out what you did for work, after the dust settled, I admired it. Actually, admired what you do, and I thought it's good and good for the industry and good for my ego that you pulled me a little out of the clouds, and so my second listing, where I did admit to everyone that the card was modified, and the claim of trying to show everyone what's wrong with Beckett was not really my motive, and I wasn't really trying to show everyone that Beckett does make those kind of mistakes. I actually wasn't trying to hurt Beckett. It was like a feeble attempt at a fake face, which made me look even more silly. So the biggest problem behind why I did what I did was for ego and for to get that ooh and ah response from people. Oh, wow, what a beautiful patch you have, what a beautiful card you have, what a great grade you have. So I was just trying to get that response more than I was listing it for profit. Right. I've never sold a modified card. I have modified a few other cards. I haven't modified any since you guys pointed out the silliness of it. But I appreciated the chance, Kyle, to kind of just come clean and talk with you about it. I felt that when I listened to your first podcast regarding what I had done to the card, that you had a semi-fair assessment of everything, and I felt that if I approached you and just talked with you about it, and I know you had approached me too, but I was considering approaching you, and then you had approached me. I just felt that a dialogue like this would be good for the industry. I think it's really a foolish move. I wouldn't repeat it. I do have the card today. I still love the card. It is modified, and it does have, in my opinion, a better patch. There was nothing wrong with the last patch. but this is a better patch. But at the end of the day, was it worth what I went through? No way. And, there was a lot of cyberbullying, and there were phone numbers shared online, and my address and my wife's information. And I had to approach my wife and let her know what I had done and what I had been up to. And that was, stressful for her and frustrating for her. And she just kind of like, are you a little boy? Like, what are you doing? Like, what's going on here? And you're putting our family at risk. And so that all that is just not worth it.
Right.
It's just not worth tampering with those types of things.
And I do want to point out that approach is huge, and I always try and be cautious when I'm going about these things. And I didn't release I don't do spouses' names and phone numbers. I try and stay away from all that stuff, just because I don't want to involve other people. But a lot of times that stuff will come out when people are learning more information about a card and learning about what's happened to it. You said a few things in there that I think we can relate to, and then I also think we can learn from. You talked about this desire to show this card off, and I think all of us, when we get something really nice, we have that feeling. We want to show it. We want people to say, hey, that's an awesome card, great job on acquiring that, or great pull or whatever. That's a good feeling. And I think it was, obviously the way you went about it, as you said, was not correct. Now, I'm not here to grill you, and the reason why we're doing this is not so people can then proceed to, just lay it on Blaine and grill him and all of that. What he's doing here, I think, takes a great amount of courage, and I really appreciate him coming on and being open and being transparent with us. And I think that this type of stuff really can move the hobby forward, and will help us to realize, okay, maybe now someone has messed up. What can we do? Before we talk more about that, I want to ask a few questions about the card, though, because I think this part of the story is really, really interesting, and I didn't learn this until later on. So I originally thought that the patch you used in the new card was from some type of replica jersey, like an authentic replica. And I'd actually found where you had purchased one. But after talking with you, you said that wasn't the case at all. Can you explain to us where you got the patch from?
Yeah, I do have all those jerseys that I have holes in them, and I would even send them to you and let you verify that. But I have a special relationship with Stephen. It uniquely came about, and it had a little bit to do with my profession. And I do a lot of good for a lot of people, and that it felt a little silly to be called out on the modifications that I did, and just why would I step on my career and my just why would I do that to myself and to my name? And so this is an effort to just fix it as much as you can. You can't really fix stuff like that, but you try to make it right. But the reason I was happy to take out the beautiful patch that was in there is because with my relationship with Stephen, that's been going on for 4.5 years now, I've been able to get some game-worn items from him. I've got a lot of his rookie items. I've got the pre-game warm-up set. I've got his jumper that he wore. I've got game-worn shorts, and I have a game-worn jersey of his from his rookie year. And the jersey itself had a couple of little problems with it. It wasn't as pristine as some of the other stuff I had, so I was willing to cut that jersey, and I took what I felt was the best part of the stitching and lettering, and I used the game worn that was a gift from Steph to me, and put it in that card. So it's still a game worn, still authentic, and that was what I did there.
And that, to me, that's it's kind of makes the whole thing ironic because the jerseys that Panini used were photo shoot jerseys. So, in our hobby, we put a huge emphasis on game worn stuff, and we hate photo shoot stuff. That's what a lot of people will say. And you have, to the best of my knowledge, the only Steph Curry National Treasures RPA now with a game worn piece in it, which, it definitely looking at it from a different approach. And I'm not advocating what you did, obviously, but I just think when all of that comes full circle, that just kind of blew my mind that, wow, you actually, you had the access to them and you had that game worn piece. I do think that's kind of cool. Now, speaking of access, I asked a question you referenced one of my earlier podcasts where, I was talking about, well, why didn't you just get Curry to sign it again since you have access to him? And I've seen plenty of pictures of you with him, so I have no doubts that you have access to him. What was your line of thinking there?
Yeah, well, the reason that I when I bought that card, I knew the price I bought it for was $19,000, well under market for other ones that are in good shape. And I noticed at Beckett that the longer I submitted cards to them, and in short time, I do have resources and I have some time, and so in short time I had 1,000 submissions to Beckett, and I was becoming that customer. And the longer I had the rapport with, I didn't ever ask anyone to give me a better grade. I didn't even put a minimum grade on it when I sent it in. But I just noticed that the kinder I was to my rep and the more rapport I had, it seemed like my grades started to come in better. And so I just noticed, I thought, well, if it's a 9, I can put a better patch in it. I can clean the signature up because I'm gifted with my hands and I understand how that could be done. And so I just looked at that signature and knew I could make it better. And I liked the signature because it was an original rookie signature. And it had some flaws, and I knew I could remove the flaws, and for my personal collection, it would look better in the case. It would have a real game worn patch from Stephen, and that came from him to me, so that meant even more. So this card to me was one I didn't really ever want to give up. I didn't really want to sell it. A lot of people think I did, and that's okay for them to think that, but I want it for me. And I just wanted it to be better, so I cleaned up that signature. Now, I could erase it, and I'm going to be with Stefan this Saturday, just in a few days. I'm going to be with him. He's in LA. He's doing rehab right now, and we've been in touch, and he's close to me, and he's invited me to come up. So I'm going to see him. So I've got this rookie signature. I could swipe it clean and have him re-sign it. His new signature, his modern signature, has a little less detail to it, in my opinion. And so that's the reason I didn't just swipe it first the original time. It might be the best thing to do because then it has an authentic, non-modified signature. But, I'd be curious what people think I should do there. But I do have access to that, and that could still be done.
Yeah, that's an interesting choice. And Blaine and I were joking on a previous call. I said, with the internet, there's no right move. So there's always, a faction of people are going to say, no, you should leave it as is. Other people will say you should erase it. And, at the end of the day, if he's not selling it, it is his card. So I am curious to see what you do with that. And as, I would say definitely document whatever happens. Cause it'd be awesome to see, what if Steph, does re-sign it, it'd be kind of cool to see that and have that as part of the story of this piece going forward and to be able to document that. You mentioned Beckett in there. And I talked to Jeremy Murray from Beckett. He wouldn't tell me, what happened on your side, and that kudos to him. That's very professional of him. So he told me to find you out, or find out from you. What did Beckett tell you after all of this?
So what ended up happening, and I know I came off very unwise, and a lot of people would think that guy is an absolute fool. But what I realized is once it came out that if I didn't contact Beckett first, it would be worse on me than if, and I knew it's just only a matter of time till a handful of people would contact Beckett and let him know that I had modified a card and didn't inform them, and that's against Beckett's policies. And so what I did is the next morning after the repost where I did say it was modified, and when I called out Beckett and said I'm doing this as a vigilante, as a hero, someone to let the industry know that Beckett needs to track their serial numbers. And anyway, that was, as I said, just a silly way to try to save face. But what I did is I sent an email to my rep, and I told her what I had done, and I said, I'm happy to do anything that you need to make it right, including surrender the card, whatever you guys need, whatever Beckett needs. And so then I got an email, I think 3-4 days later, and they said, thank you for informing us. We've also been informed by other sources of what happened. And then I would you please get on the phone with us? So then I spoke to them on the phone, and I spoke to Derek, the manager there, and he was very professional, very cool with me, and kind of, did what other people did, shook his head at why I would do that. But at the same time, he said, listen, we need to get that card back. For now, we don't know what we're going to do with it. You've given us the option to do what we want with it, but we need the card back, and we need to get it out of our case. And it can't have our authentication on it if it has been modified, and you've clearly said it's been modified, and so we need that back. And so I next dated to him. I mailed it to him next day. He got it. He contacted me. He said, thank you. We'll be in touch. A couple of weeks later, they went back and forth, had other questions. They said, listen, the card is yours. We're sending the card back to you outside of our case. And because you did call us out, you did hurt our brand, and therefore we can't have you do any more submissions. And I had about, I think, 600 cards with them at the time that had not finalized grading. They sent those back to me ungraded. They sent this rookie card back to me, and they terminated my ability to submit to them. Something tells me that won't last forever, and that maybe even this effort will cause them to change their minds. And absolutely did I learn, what I don't want to do is modify something and not tell everyone up front. So if I ever did modify a card again, because I can do it and I'm good at it, I don't have plans to do it. But if I did, the old patch would be there, the picture of the jersey would be there, the information that everyone needs to know what I did to a card would all be disclosed up front. And so if Beckett ever did grade another one for me, it would have altered on it, and people would know what they're getting. So that's something I've chosen to do moving forward with the hobby.
Right, and I think that's a good move. We talked about irony already. The irony, you mentioned that you kind of threw Beckett out there as to cover and as a vigilante to get the serial numbers tracked. Well, the irony is that your actions actually, in a roundabout way, what you did to that card led to the serial numbers being tracked, and we've got confirmation of that now. We're looking for more details still, but yeah, they've told us, yes, this has in a way led to the serial numbers being tracked. So I thought that was interesting as well. I want to be respectful of your time here. I know you don't have a lot of time left. I just want to talk about a couple more things here. First off, you've already shown, you've expressed remorse a number of times. You talked about how it has affected your family as well. Just overall, what are your takeaways from this, and what advice would you give to other people out there who are maybe thinking about similar actions?
Well, I think we all, for the most part, live outstanding lives, and this is kind of a hobby. And when I wondered if I was going to be in any legal trouble, I reached to my legal team and said, here's what's happened, and what are my risks, and where's this going to go? And right now, if you deface money or if you change certain things, there's heavy laws around it. But in the card realm, one of the authors that looked at it, one of the lawyers that we read some things said that it's the crime to commit, because there's a lot of consequence. But I disagree with that. I don't think it's a crime that you should commit. I learned from it the hard way, and I would just invite everybody to learn with me instead of on your own. And, luckily I had the character, and I made the effort to make restitution, to make things right, both with Beckett and, with the community, the card collecting community. I know that what I did to the card didn't hurt its value. I know the value's probably gone up. It's now a famous card. It's more famous than it ever was. It's more beautiful than it's ever been. And it may be back in Stefan's hands here real soon with a new signature on it. And if that does happen, we'll absolutely keep you up to date on it. But at the end of the day, if you're going to modify something that you own for your own collection or for yourself, that I think I can live with. But if you're going to modify it to make profit or to deceive other people or to sound like you pulled a miracle card when you didn't, that's going to bite you. It's going to come back. It's going to hurt you. And ultimately, one way or the other, you're going to have to pay some price. And I didn't like what I had to pay, and I'm just glad to try to make restitution now.
And I really appreciate you coming on. One more question for you. I actually, this was something I didn't know had anything to do with you, or in some way. I posted a picture a while ago, or maybe a month ago, on my Instagram that had a Steph Curry Topps Black rookie that was a BGS 4.5, and then the same Curry rookie that was later graded as a BGS 9. And I posted that message saying, what is going on with this card? Does anyone have any information about this card? And you messaged me. Now, you didn't know about the 4.5, from what I understand, but you actually you showed me a picture of the card in a BGS 8.5 holder, and it's signed. So that it was kind of all came full circle to me that it was you too that had that. So tell me a little bit about that card.
Yeah, like I said, I want whatever rare rookies I can get, especially of Stephen, and I have the rare opportunity to occasionally get those signed. And so I didn't know that it was previously graded at what you said, 4.5.
Yeah.
And I bought it. I think I paid over $3,000 for it, and I bought the card. And then I took it out of the case because I was going to see Stephen, and I wanted him to sign it. When I took it out of the case, I did see at the top left of his forehead, the card had been bent a little bit. It was a clean card. I couldn't see that on the eBay listing when I bought it. I obviously felt comfortable with the 9 grade, that it was in pretty good shape. And so then when I saw that the card was bent, I'm like, wow, I wonder how this is going to go. I still want to get it signed. It's still a rare card. And so, and you have to turn the light just right to see it, but you can see it if you do. So anyway, I took it to Stephen, got it signed, and he gave it a beautiful signature, one of his modern signatures. And I sent it in to BAS, and they authenticated the signature, and they came back at the 8.5. I don't know if they saw the flaw or not, but that card is now in my possession, and it's interesting to know that I was victim in that setting of somebody regrading a card and finding a better grade and selling it for more than they would have if I would have, I would have still bought the card at 4.5 if it was on the market when I was in the industry. But yeah, so I've got it, and it's in my collection, and you're welcome to share the pictures I sent to you of the signature and the new grade. And
it really is a beautiful looking signature too. For those of you that know Steph's signature variations well, there's he has a quick in-person free version, and then he has a really nice personalized kind of sit-down version, and he gave Blaine a really nice version here. All right, so I do want to wrap up here. Blaine, once again, thanks for coming on. It's up to me to figure out what I think. It's up to the listener to figure out what they think, but I wanted them to hear from you. They don't have to agree with everything that you said. They don't have to believe everything that you said, but I wanted them to hear from you. I really appreciate you coming on. That means a lot to me, and I hope that means a lot to the card community as well.
Well, and thanks for the opportunity. There were goals I had, and I think you wanted to let the community know where the card is, what its status is, what the updates are, and what happened, and now everyone knows that. But I appreciate most the opportunity to bring to light what was bothering me, and thank you so much for giving me that chance, Kyle.
All right, thank you. All right, so once again, thanks to Blaine for coming on to talk about this Curry card and that entire situation. My goal of the conversation wasn't to take aim at him and pick everything apart that he said. In fact, the first time I talked to him on the phone, I was very blunt with whatever parts of his story that I agreed with and didn't, but I wanted to give him some space to at least attempt to do the right thing and talk through, what that even might look like. What is the right thing? We don't have a handbook for this in the hobby. And when it comes to people messing up bad and doing corrupt things, I think this is something that we as collectors and the collecting community, we're still struggling to navigate. Do these people get cast out for good? Do they have a safe place to give their side of the story? Is there some way they can regain our trust? And I don't know the answers to all of these questions, but I do appreciate him taking the time to talk with me and maybe influence my thinking as well. And now I'd like to hear from you guys. Maybe you have some points to make that I ignored for one reason or another. Maybe you have some answers to these questions. Maybe you have some experiences of your own that could help. Let me know on my Instagram, which is @WaxMuseumPodcast, or my Twitter, which is @WaxMuseumPC. In the meantime, if you like the content I'm providing, please subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes or Google Play. Hit up the Podbean site for a link to the merch store. Tag Taco Bell and let them know they can pay me in burritos. And until next time, this is the Wax Museum Podcast.